my next guest is going to be Callum Robinson. He is a Perth, Australia native. Currently plays for the Atlas Lacrosse Club and played at Stevenson University, where he won a national championship. How you doing today, Callum?
Good. How we all doing?
Good. So just to get right into this, you were from Australia. Not a lot of lacrosse from Australia. Can you talk a little about kind of growing up and how you kind of found lacrosse?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Certainly not a typical lacrosse hotbed is Australia, but the sport has been down there for many years. It's just it's a bit of a niche sport, should we say? It doesn't have as many participants as a lot of other countries around the world, especially your Americas and Canadas and the big nations of that respect. However, the community that is involved in lacrosse is very passionate about the sport and diehard lacrosse fans. So once you do find your foot in the door, which I did, it's very easy to sort of be welcomed in and then sort of fall in love with the sport, which is sort of how my story kind of happened. So I actually had a family friend introduce me to the game when I was 11 years old, and I started playing when I was 12. And then the same year that I started playing, obviously I liked it, and it's like something I'd never played before. I had a bit of a blend of a lot of different sports that I grew up playing. And I fit right in. I like the guys that I played with, which is obviously important at a youth level too. You've got to have a certain amount of fun in order to keep participating. So all the stars align in that respect. And then that same year, 2002, is when I started playing. My home city, Perth, Australia, actually hosted the World Cup. So I got to see sort of, the best guys in the world. Mind you, I think the MLO was in its first year then, or maybe its second year. So I'd never seen pro lacrosse. I'd never even knew it existed. It was still a very small dot on the map at that stage. So the idea of having the best lacrosse players in the world come to my city and play in my backyard and put on an exhibition for 2 weeks was very enticing. And as an 11, 12-year-old, it was a love affair at first sight. I got to see these guys playing the sport like I'd never seen the sport played. We didn't have access to YouTube, nothing like that back then. So to be able to see those guys running around in my backyard and doing what they did with their sticks and their game and their talent was certainly left a lot to be imagined. And then, the passion sort of built from there.
At what point did, people don't know, you went and attended Stevenson University in Maryland. At what point did college lacrosse become a reality for you?
Yeah, I think, the club that I played at in Perth, Wembley Lacrosse Club, Wembley Wolves, great club in Perth, Australia, and has been around now for longer than we had our 75th anniversary a little while ago. So it's a club that's been in existence now for some time. A guy of my senior, Adam Sear is his name. He's about 3 or 4 years older than me. Still to date, one of my best friends. He went over and played his collegiate lacrosse at Maryland. And, as a kid that was much younger and at that age when you're, 16, 17, you think about going over to America. And you've got me who's, 13, 14, watching a guy who's 17 years old play the way he did and conduct himself the way he did. And then sort of turn that dream that every kid, it would be silly if they said they didn't have that dream, but turn that dream that was so far-fetched for many Australian lacrosse players into a reality. That sort of lit that spark within me. So Adam played his 4 years at Maryland, and I've started playing lacrosse and loved it and kept playing and never really had the same opportunities open up for me when I was younger. I was a bit of a late bloomer as well growing up. So when I got a little bit older, the opportunity presented itself to come across to America. Adam was a big part in that, and he was helping me follow in his footsteps. And I was, hopefully going to go play my collegiate lacrosse career at the University of Maryland. Still have a letter of admission there. However, as I said, I was a little older, so I had some problems with athletic eligibility. So I couldn't make that happen. I could have gone to school, but not played lacrosse. So the sort of opportunity and everything I wanted out of going and attending the University of Maryland sort of dropped away at the last minute. Adam was conveniently starting his graduate assistant position at Stevenson University that year. And he showed Coach Canterbury my tape. And I was very naive to the whole process, but there's a lot of different eligibility rules between a Division 3, Division 1, and Division 2 level. They all have their own sort of loopholes and whatnot. Division 3, I was able to get 3 years of athletic eligibility. So I decided to pull the trigger and attend Stevenson University. And I always promised myself that I would be there for at least a year. Mind you, I'd never traveled to America before. I was 21 years old, just turned 21 years old in the month of my 21st birthday. So I said that I would at least come across for a year. And if I didn't like it, nothing's going to change at home. I can always get back on a plane after that year and head back. And I put my university studies in Australia on hold for a year and went over and played. And, like you alluded to in the introduction, we were fortunate enough to win a national championship in that first year. And, that sort of love affair that's been building over a course of time really climaxed in that first year of college. And I knew then and there that, I was destined to play college lacrosse for a long time, and I was destined to come back and hopefully continue my lacrosse career after college as well. But more importantly, I knew that, it wasn't just going to be a one-year stint for me. I wanted to come back and I wanted to make this something that would be a staple in my adulthood. And it certainly turned out that way. And Stevenson University was still to date the best decision I've ever made. And it's paved the way for, now I'm going on 8 years in America now. So it's paved the way for every opportunity and everything I've been able to achieve and earn over that 8-year period.
I have never been able to say that I won any sort of championship, been close at a high school or college level. And that's something that I'm still striving to do with my team this coming year. But can you talk a little bit about just how kind of close that team would be? When I've interviewed other people that have won championships, they say that team, that bond is kind of just will be forever.
Yeah. And, that sort of love affair that I'm talking about, that stems from, a brotherhood of, that year we had a roster of 73 guys. I think we carried the biggest roster in college across any division. And we had 73 guys who were, best friends, best mates on and off the field. We had a phenomenal locker room atmosphere. But when we started, gelling early on in that fall, we knew we were destined for something special. And I think me coming across to America for the first year, I didn't really have a measuring stick. I was sort of setting the bar my first year. So I got sort of exposed to the best case scenario as soon as I got off the plane. So I was very fortunate to be able to learn from those guys, and we had a very good senior class. But I can't sort of put into words how much of a special bond it is you share with other players when, you're all 70 young men, all have their stars aligned the same way. All focuses are pointing in the same direction, one common goal. And I think that was very apparent from the fall all the way throughout the spring. And, our success started to translate when we, started playing games early on. We opened up the season with RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, who we ended up playing in the national championship later in that year. And we beat them the first game of the season in overtime. And I think from there, we realized we had something special in our team, and the flame ignited after that first game. And just being able to go into battle with your best mates, share experiences with them on and off the field, work out as hard as we did on the field, in the gym, in the classroom, in the film room, whatever it may be. There wasn't any abrasiveness. There was nothing but just pure camaraderie between the group all year. And I still reflect back on that with a lot of my former teammates, and we get together for alumni events and just talk about how special that year was. And I think every year we go past now, and every year we get further away from that national championship, it just gets more and more special. And I think the guys really understand how much of an amazing group we had, and how good the personalities were that we shared in that locker room, and the success was a pure translation of that chemistry.
Yeah, that's an amazing experience, and I hope to be able to have something similar in the future. So then, obviously, as a kind of a pseudo freshman year, having that amazing experience, then building to, I would assume, in 2015, which was your senior year, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Getting personal accolades as an academic All-American, and then also the MAC Conference Scholar Athlete of the Year. Can you kind of talk about the balance at Stevenson between your academic and athletic life?
Yeah, I think I studied chemical engineering in Australia for 3 years too, and I've always been an academic. I certainly enjoy the classroom, so I don't find it too much of a burden on my time or my schedule. I do really enjoy exercising my brain and working hard in the classroom. And for me, coming across to America, it's a little different to everyone else over here, right? I don't have access to financial aid. I don't have anything like that that's government supplied. So in order for me to come and support myself, I had to justify the opportunity as a good one. And we did that after the first year, and then trying to justify the next second and third year, I should say, I needed some financial help. So my big motivator was, at a Division 3 level, we don't get any athletic money, not a dime. So, the only resources that I was able to access was financial aid from an academic side. So I had all the motivation in the world. If I wanted to continue playing lacrosse, then I needed to post some really, really good grades so that I could turn around to the school and justify a good academic scholarship. So I was able to do that. I studied chemistry at Stevenson and was fortunate enough to have some really, really good resources at that school that worked in conjunction with athletes very, very well. Small classroom atmosphere, really good mentors and tutors, great lecturers, great department heads. Everyone from the athletic side all the way through the academic side were very supportive of their athletes. And they gave us every tool we needed. So it was a matter of whether you were willing to put in the hard work. And for me, if I didn't, then I would inevitably be getting on a plane and heading back to Australia. So I had every incentive to work hard in the classroom, and I certainly did. And I think, those accolades, especially the academic All-American, Scholar Athlete of the Year, they're probably the accolades, I think, at the end of the day now, reflecting back on it after time has passed, that I hold as close to my heart as anything. It's a very good sign of an adult and someone who has, their eggs all in the right basket, is that, you can sort of put into perspective the importance of being able to perform on the field, but also setting yourself up for a career after the game of lacrosse, and to be able to supplement, not just an athletic income with something that you can work with and exercise on an academic perspective. And I'll forever be very, very grateful for the school for giving me every resource. And fortunate enough, I was able to use them at my disposal successfully. And those All-American awards and academic awards were a true sort of, a testament to the school for giving me everything I needed.
Absolutely. Well, they definitely caught some teams' attention after college. Stayed within the state of Maryland and joined the Chesapeake Bayhawks. Can you talk about experience with them in the MLL?
Yeah, I think this is my second year of college. We were able to we played at the World Games in Denver. That was the first time that outside of a Division 3 atmosphere, I was able to get my name out and my brand out amongst other peers and coaches and lacrosse personalities. Then coming back after that World Games, playing in my senior year of college, and I had a really good season and did very well on the field in that respect, and very much found my groove by that stage. Third time around, third repeat. I sort of knew the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts, and was able to have a very, very good senior campaign. And then was fortunate enough to be given a lifeline and opportunity by the Chesapeake Bayhawks, and was drafted into their organization, which, in the Old Pro League was one of the more established teams, a team that had a lot of rich history in winning and succeeding. And I sort of got to experience that as well. So I had a very good exposure at the college level, very good exposure in my first pro team. And I was fortunate enough for them, they're giving me a huge lifeline, drafting a kid, an unknown kid from Australia, coming out of a Division 3 college. They certainly took a gamble. So just like I felt with Stevenson, I also felt obligated to prove to them that, they didn't waste their pick and they didn't take a risk on me, and I was going to prove to them that I was worth every cent of that pick at the most.
Absolutely. It seems like a theme from a lot of the players that I've talked to, that kind of chip on your shoulder, as well as letting a team know that they took a chance on, when they only have a certain amount of draft picks, to pick a player and really working hard for that team. And then the next step in your professional career, well, at the Atlanta Blaze, can you talk about kind of that transition to another team, and then after that, the PLL?
Yeah, we'll start with the Blaze. The general manager who drafted me coming out of college um, was let go by the Chesapeake Bayhawks, and he actually picked up his working career down in Atlanta and started as their general manager their first year on the team. And Spencer was kind enough after the first year to reach out to me and express interest. And at that point in time, I was stuck on a roster with the Bayhawks, an older roster. It was a bit of a changing of the guard time. We had they had a lot of good players in that team, players who had won MLL championships, and they were sort of on their way out as the new guys were on their way in. And there was a lot of guys vying for a little amount of spots. And I saw an opportunity elsewhere, and so did Spencer. And he really liked my style of play, and we always got along. And obviously, him drafting me coming out of college, he saw something in me then, and he saw something in me 2 years down the line. So 2 years at the Bayhawks, and then I was fortunate enough to be picked up in the supplemental draft, second pick by the Blaze. And so Spencer brought me down there, and I had 2 phenomenal years down there. And I shared a team with the Atlanta Blaze my first year that was really, really special. I think we didn't have the on-field success that we probably wanted. One more year of that group would have been really, really special. However, that locker room was something similar to what I experienced at Stevenson in that first year. And I certainly was very grateful for the opportunity to get down there and play. And same thing, you've got a general manager who's taken another risk on you, who's obviously seen you play. He knows what you're about. He knows what you represent. He wanted to get me involved in the organization, and I wanted to prove to the rest of the world that he wasn't crazy for thinking that. So I went down there with, just as you said, a huge chip on my shoulder, and had 2 very fun and 2 very productive years at the Blaze. And then that sort of led me into my next opportunity. And then obviously the PLL gets launched. They're reaching out to, what they evaluate as the best players in the world. I was fortunate enough to be one of them, and get the opportunity to transition over to that league and play last year every game. I have never experienced lacrosse like I did last year in the PLL. That was the funnest, the most highest quality lacrosse that I have ever been able to experience in my playing career. And right now we're sort of sitting here with our hands up and not really knowing what's going on. But I can tell you that, there's 180 guys out there right now that are very excited for year 2. Year 1 was such a huge success, and we're only building on that momentum and gaining that traction even more within the general public. So I think year 2, you can expect even more, better quality of play, faster style, and lacrosse is just going to continue to be we're going to continue to raise the bar, I should say, for what is expected of the sport of lacrosse. I think for the longest time that pro game at the MLL level had become a bit stagnant. We're expected, almost to do the same thing. The professional atmosphere was lost a little bit. That was very much reversed when we transitioned over to the PLO, and those guys, the Rabel brothers, they understood the stock of each player and how much it means to them and what they're willing to do to get themselves on the field. And I think they understood that the level of play could be a little bit better with a couple of little tweaks here and there. And they've done the best to squeeze every drop out of the guys. So we're certainly looking forward to pouring our hearts and souls onto the field in season 2.
Absolutely. I think that really add the aspect of an added competition from another league. I was just the last interview I had was Noah Rack, who currently plays in the MLL, and he was saying that he loves just for lacrosse the competition that it's raised, and it's kind of raised both leagues to be in a higher state. Personally, I think the PLL is definitely a different breed in terms of a league comparatively, but it's definitely had to raise to create the PLL. They had to separate themselves and distance themselves in player ability and obviously in markability. They're right now, I think, in terms of sports leagues, they use social media the best to their advantage, whether it's showcasing athletes' workouts, like I've seen you on the page quite often, or even I think last week they were just doing even for any content, like a cheese ball challenge or something like that. But constantly creating content, constantly getting people involved, fans, which I think is where lacrosse really gets its roots, kind of getting fans to grow the game and getting more people interested in the sport.
Yeah, I think most definitely. I know something we've modeled off, and we've had people within that organization who have transitioned over now to the PLL, but the MLS did a really good job of that 10, 15 years ago. A league that no one knew anything about, a sport that wasn't generally respected in America. Did a really good job at gaining some traction in the public by putting themselves in front of as many eyes as they could. And they did that through social media avenues. And the PLL, has been very transparent about that from the get-go. Look, we are not a Big Five sport. We want to get there. How can we do that? And they use social media tools, just like you alluded to, better than almost any other league, pro sports league across the world right now. They do a phenomenal job exposing their athletes, getting the games out there, highlights, features, and then sort of getting behind, getting, as cliche as it might sound, getting below the helmet, as we like to call it within the PLO atmosphere. We want to sort of, take the helmet off the players, give them a face, let the fans engage with them as best they can, find some relation between, yourself as a young lacrosse player, or an older dad or a parent or whatever, and find some sort of tangents and also some parallels that you can, draw on and discuss and debate against, and something that makes these players, including myself, not just something you see on TV every week, but something you can relate to, engage with, talk with, coached by, however it is. They've done a very good job at giving that league, putting that league's foot in the door in season 1. And I think from here on out, obviously there was a lot of expectations year 1, and I think we blew them out of the water, but we've also learned a lot of what not to do. So in doing that, we did a lot of things year 1, and not everything's going to be a success. So we've learned how to sort of tweak some things here and there, and add here and subtract here. And I think year 2, the public is going to be very excited to see the product that we have, both on the field, but especially off the field. I think our media team is second to none in the sports world right now.
Absolutely. And I think one of the big things that you touched on is being able to be watched by a lot wider audience. I think one of the things that the older league, the MLL, did was really try to make sure they marketed to that kind of 12 and under crowd in terms of censorship. Like, I know one of the big things is the mic'd upness of the PLL. I kind of it's very similar to playoff hockey atmosphere. Everything kind of goes. Language is out there, physicality, it's all there. And I think that's something that is really appealing to an older audience. And when I've talked to other guys that are in the PLL, they really think that kind of making it a sport that, hey, let's go throw it on with our buddies. And like, you can be 30, you can be 15, you can be 45, just any lacrosse fans welcome, and everyone there's something for everybody.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's, what we're trying to do is a one size fits all approach. We want the product that we're putting out there, both playing and also media to consume. We want that product to be appropriate for a very wide target audience. So, one of the things we've done is a good job on censorship side, game days and stuff like that. Depending on the NBC network that we're playing on, we can be very liberal in what we're sort of broadcasting out there. So it gives, as an audience, and I think even me as a player, I'm watching game film, I'm scouting from week to week. I get to listen to these guys talk on broadcasts and stuff like that. And I feel like I'm sort of sitting, adjacent to the field or right on that crease or whatever it is. I feel like I'm in the action. It gives the fans a really good sense of engagement and what it's like to be on that field. And that's the biggest thing, right? If you can get a product across to an audience, make them feel involved, make them feel a part of what we're doing out there, then it's going to be a love affair for everyone. And I think was the case first year. Second year, we're certainly we're not shying away from, mic'd up players and player features and stuff like that. They're certainly going to be here to stay. I think it's a great insight, especially for younger players too. You listen to these guys talk about how to play, and that you might have coached them at clinics or camps or whatever it may be. Now you actually get to see these guys, practice what they preach. And I think that really resonates with young guys and also with an older audience too. These people realize that there's a little bit more than meets the cover of a lacrosse player. It's not just going out there, picking up a ground ball and making a pass. There's a lot more that goes into it, both preparation and also on-field execution.
Absolutely. And so can you talk about a little bit about one experience that stood out from this year playing for the Atlas, or just kind of overall PLL wise?
one experience. Oof.
Yeah, on the field,
Yeah,
off the field, anything.
yeah, we had a lot.
Absolutely.
I think you just, right from the get-go, we're all excited about the idea of this league. And, for the longest time, we've been having conversations. For me, it was over a course of 2 years. The first time I heard about the PLO was probably 18 months prior to us playing the first game. So I'm already playing. We're in season in the MLO, and we're sort of hearing about this and, talking to people about this. And there was so much, hype and so much expectation and so much promise, and all for a good reason too. But by the time we get down to IMG Academy in the first week of May, I should say, and we get everyone there, and all this hype that's been built around this new pro league and playing on NBC and putting ourselves in front of an audience and getting the best guys in the world on one field together every weekend, sharing a locker room, whatever it may be. We go down to IMG Academy that first week of May. We see everyone roll off the bus, get off the plane, and it just looked like everyone had sort of understood the opportunity that was ahead of us. Guys across the board were in the best shape of their life. They came, their sticks were sharp. People were in the best physical shape I've ever seen lacrosse players be in. And I think that's only going to be drastically improved year 2 as well. But that was very apparent to me. I think the quality of play at that training camp over a 6-day period was out of this world. And we got to play, and practice adjacently on fields next to the other teams. We're seeing the level of play across the board like nothing we've ever experienced in the sport of lacrosse before. And a lot of us have been fortunate enough to play in the MLO and the NLO at World Games. This was really blowing the socks off all of that, even as a combination. And I think from there, we realized that we were onto something special. Everyone was taking this very seriously. Everyone realized the opportunity we had to sort of elevate the sport of lacrosse and compete with those big five. And then come week 1 up in Boston, playing at Foxborough, Bill Belichick on the sideline, Teddy Bruschi, people like that. You're sort of pinching yourself. Jim Brown, you're sort of sitting there being like, all right, shit, this is real. We're here. Yeah, we're here to do something. We're all business from here on out. And let's give these people, the audience took a leap of faith just as we did moving over to that league, right? They didn't know what to expect. Obviously, they expected and been promised big things. We felt obligated to give them every cent of the dollars they had paid to attend that game and games from there on out. And we sure as hell wanted to make sure that the league was going to be nothing else but a success.
I think that's a just general overall theme, the professionalism in the sense of like, wow, this is real and this is so much different in a positive way that I've just been told for everyone that's been in the league, especially on a small thing. Like someone mentioned the food, like that's such a small, minute detail, but like the individualized like food that you're actually getting like healthy food instead of, I've heard people say like, oh yeah, we were just given pizza and beer after our games. And obviously like that's all fun and there's time and place for that, but maybe not during or directly after a professional game and directly before and things like that.
Yeah, we had a food catering company that caters for the Washington Capitals amongst, I think, 2 other NHL teams. They're based out of DC, so I know they cater for the Nationals too and stuff like that. So we had these guys come into training camp, talk to us about diet. And, I'm a type 1 diabetic, so that sort of stuff really resonates with me and probably something that I was already well educated on. But there's a lot of guys who were, very eyes open, listening to this sort of spiel and this sort of information and digesting everything they heard, literally and figuratively. And I think the difference, just stuff like that, stuff that you're like, oh, wow, this actually makes a difference. Or, wow, this is important. That level of professionalism from top to bottom was something that we were sort of pinching ourselves, being like, okay, yeah, if you're going to treat us like this and you're going to give us these opportunities, then we're indebted to make sure that we pour our blood and sweat and tears onto that field and give you guys the best product to put on TV.
Especially with the playing in Foxborough, somewhere that's hosted they host the Patriots. They've hosted the college national championship for lacrosse. I personally was at all those games and working that event, and it really didn't feel like MLL atmosphere. I've been to Harvard and the places they play, and it felt like the atmosphere of a national championship college game, which I think is, if the lacrosse world can recreate that on a weekend to weekend thing in the summer, that would be amazing. And I think the PLL is doing that and will go above and beyond that.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
Something,
It was a great launching platform was Foxborough for week one. I think NFL stadiums are probably not our target stadiums. They're probably
yeah,
just a little bit too big. However, just the prestigiousness of being able to play in Foxborough, you're looking at, I'm a Ravens fan, so I'm by no means am I a Patriot fan, but just being able to look at, Super Bowl banners hanging up, and, you got the likes of, people like I mentioned sitting on the sideline observing you, and that sort of stuff was really, really sort of was a great launching pad for week one, and then sort of into week two, and then for the rest of the season as well.
so the PLL fans might be used to seeing you in the blue and white, but you've definitely represented some other colors, especially the yellow and green, Australia. You get to play in 2 world games, Denver and Israel. Can you talk a little bit about just the ability and the privilege to play for your country and representing your country in the world of lacrosse?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you just said, right? It is a privilege. I certainly don't underestimate the special, quote unquote, privilege that it is to put on your home country's colours, wear that Australian banner across the front of your chest, listen to your national anthem before you put your helmet on. Stuff like that is very, very special, and something that I certainly don't take for granted. I was still in college when I was playing in Denver. That was one of the best world games I think that's ever been hosted. Obviously, playing in North America, playing in Denver, in America, it was, you're going into what is the biggest lacrosse fandom in the world. So you get a really big automatic audience, a really big, attendance and hype. And we had, ESPN on the sidelines and things like that. And as a kid who's still playing Division III college, my eyes were sort of wide open for the entire 2-week process. But at the end of my second year of college, I've been based in America now for 2 years full time. It was really nice to get back around with the guys that I grew up playing with, be back around that Australian brotherhood, that camaraderie, the banter that is so often associated with, Aussie athletes. And then I think, that first game we played against Japan, I still won't forget it at Dick's Sporting Goods Stadium, just standing there arm in arm with my teammates, guys that, we've been on this process now for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, from first camps all the way through to the team being selected and us playing in a World Cup. That 3-year process, being able to stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, listen to that anthem, watch your walk out with your flag flying, that is very, very special and sort of holds a sentiment in my heart that I was chasing from there on after. So we had a good campaign in Denver. I obviously put my hand up again to play in Israel, and we had a lot of fun out there as well. But I think more importantly, being able to have my family in the sidelines, turn to the stands, look at my mum and dad, my brother, and they're wearing Australian colours and listening to our fans, cheer and sing Aussie songs and stuff like that. It's something you just don't get to do very often, right? This is a once in a 4-year opportunity, and who knows? Every game, let alone every World Cup, might be your last one. So I certainly don't take that for granted. And every opportunity I get to hear that anthem and play in the green and gold, I want to represent my country in the best way, shape, and form I can. And I think you certainly get the best lacrosse out of every athlete when there's something a little intangible on the line, something you can't put in a word, something you can't replicate, something you can't practice, and that's sort of that national pride. And I certainly am very grateful for that opportunity and hope to have another one in 2022.
Absolutely. And kind of closing, lacrosse, it's in America, it's been labeled the sport of the future. It's been labeled the fastest growing sport in America. Where do you think the future of lacrosse is going?
Yeah, I think, this whole conversation, I've been talking about how we're, trying to compete with the big five. Your hockeys, your football, your basketball. They're the sports that we want to be, on the same measuring stick, on the same comparison to. And that's where we're pushing this league to. We want to be at a stage where we have, fandom across the country. We have participants across the country. There's no longer hotbeds. right? This is going to be a national sport inevitably. It's going to be an international sport inevitably. I see this future of lacrosse in America as being up there in what's going to be the new Big Six, and on the same sort of measuring stick as your NFLs and your NBAs, your NHLs and MLSs, everything of that nature. I think the foundations that they've laid year one have certainly put us on a trajectory to get there. And I think we're going to get there a lot sooner than people expect. You can probably model us around an MMA, a touring-based, UFC model. A touring-based model was able to gain traction very quickly and sort of exponentially grow like any other sports league that we've seen. They did that in like a 5 to 7 year process. We're trying to do it in that even shorter. I think being a touring-based model, having all this talent in one place, being able to mobilize from city to city, we're gaining a lot of traction. We're getting a lot of fandom, and I think that's only going to continue to grow as more and more people hear about lacrosse. The on-field product is also going to keep growing and growing and growing. So as you have more people tuning in, more people watching the sport's also growing. It's getting faster. It's getting better. The quality of play is getting better. We're attracting better athletes. We're attracting more athletes. The future of lacrosse is very, very bright. And expect us to be filling out big stadiums here in the coming years. And I might, my time might be done by that stage, but I'll be certainly very, very happy to be sitting on the sideline watching this sport in a decade from now, thinking about where the PLL can be. Gets me very, very excited.
Thank you so much, Callum, for taking the time out of your day to talk to me. Where can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, Ian, my handle on Instagram is Callum10 Robinson. That's your best place to follow me. I put all my media up there. Now in this quarantine time, anyone looking for workouts, wall ball routines, lacrosse orientated exercises, everything of that nature, tune in there. And then I also like to keep it pretty lighthearted. So we have a bit of fun up there, and everything's in good spirits, nice jovial page, workouts, fun, humor. That's the best place to find me, Callum10 Robinson.
Absolutely. Make sure you give them a follow, and thank you so much for listening.
Go Bulls.